Greetings and welcome, I'm Ash, and this is my review for Aviary Attorney. I've been following Aviary Attorney for a little while now, and from the previews alone, I knew I would most likely enjoy it. What I didn't expect, however, is that I would be so enthralled with it that I would complete it in one single sitting. Aviary Attorney is a visually stunning game that follows the stories of Monsieur Falcon and his witty partner Sparrowson as they take on court cases in 19th century Paris and try their very best to bumble towards justice. The gameplay is split into two parts. In one, you gather clues and interview individuals related to your case, and in the other, you present that information in a court of law in an effort to free your client from guilt. A simple premise, but there are plenty of choices to make that will impact how the entire proceedings will go, including ones that lead you to losing and potentially an innocent man getting executed for a crime he didn't commit, just because you couldn't connect the dots properly. A scary thought, isn't it? During the information gathering phase, you are able to visit various locations in Paris as you search for clues, but be warned, you only have a limited amount of avenues you can explore before the time's up and the courtroom assembles. If you don't choose your locations wisely and carefully, you might just find yourself entering court with no actual evidence and only elaborate theories which, unsurprisingly, don't hold up to scrutiny. Once you do decide on a location, you will either be able to interview various characters or engage in some good old-fashioned detective work, which, in the case of Aviary Attorney, means mousing over every single pixel of the screen trying to see if anything lights up for your two characters to comment on. Personally, I would have preferred this done in a somewhat different fashion, one where you can actually overlook evidence, but given how important these items tend to be for the overall narrative, not just the court case, I can sort of understand why they made them this accessible. The evidence, among other items and character bios, goes into a special container you can reference at any time if you need a hand recalling which French-sounding name belongs to whom. It is a great idea to do so because later cases have an overwhelming amount of characters and items involved, so it is always handy to be able to take a look at them at any time. The one thing I didn't like, however, is that there is no note system in a game with puzzles this complex. By the final case, I had fully scribbled over 2 A4 papers in an effort to keep tabs on all of the information that might end up being relevant to the case I'm working on. For example, someone might mention offhandedly that they entered from the west side while explaining something of great importance to me, only in the end for the whole story to end up being completely irrelevant, except for the fact that he came in from the west side, which is a crucial point. So after doing an hour of interviews after that moment, you might completely forget about this one small detail that would tear a massive hole in the prosecutor's case and set your client free. This is why a note system would have been invaluable, but sadly it isn't present. Although, let's face it, this is a minor quibble, and as you can see, you can just use a piece of paper, but still, it would have been a great thing to have regardless. Besides simply snooping around for evidence, you can also conduct the far more interesting interviews with the rather unique and well-characterized, people that inhabit the world of Aviary Attorney. In contrast to the very controlled nature of detective work, the game lets you completely loose with interviews, allowing you to pressure people on what you feel are half-truths or lies with potentially disastrous results. If one of the key witnesses for your case ends up either hating you or refusing to give you much needed information because you ended up badgering him too much, well, you might have your whole case go astray just due to your lack of tact. Besides the actual courtroom battles, this is my favorite part of Aviary Attorney, as the characters are really well done and hard to get a read on with just a single conversation. One of my favorite and most embarrassing moments was when I blindly trusted a character who I figured was completely honest, only to realize I got screwed over and an innocent man got to rot in prison because of it. It was a very sobering moment that made me realize just how hard it is to actually be a good lawyer. On the topic of characters, I also have to commend the writing because it is simply excellent and does a great job of immersing you into the world. As mentioned above, the whole story takes place in Paris on the eve of the revolution, and you can really see the divide between the nobility and the common folk simply through the words and mannerisms they use. So don't let the fact that the characters are humanoid animals discourage you from taking Aviary Attorney seriously, because beneath the cheerful veneer is a tale of chaos and injustice the people of Paris felt while living in abject poverty, constantly looking towards the rich nobility that did nothing for them. However, despite the undertones throughout the game being very serious in nature, Aviary Attorney is still a lighthearted game filled with tons of jokes and witticisms. I have to give special mention to all of the puns your assistant Sparrowson manages to cram into almost every single observation he makes. Despite the pun being the lowest form of comedy, just slightly above fart jokes, I still have to admit I laughed way more times than I expected, simply because the delivery and timing of the joke were spot on. And speaking of Sparrowson, both him and Falcon are introduced as the classic talentless bumbling fools, but through Aviary Attorney's 6 or so hours of runtime, you will get to know them a lot better as actual people, with weaknesses and strengths rather than simple caricatures. The same goes for your quote-unquote opponents, the prosecution. When you first meet them, all you will see is mean-spirited arch-rivals of yours, but they end up actually being fully fleshed-out characters with their own goals and ideals, besides simply beating you down in the court of law. All of this characterization is done through some rather subtle dialogue weaved in with the overall narrative and interviews, so you will never feel like a giant pile of exposition was just taken and dumped on you, but rather you will slowly realize some things just through pauses in speech and the way the characters move. And speaking of movement, it is the presentation of the game I would like to talk about next. If you ever needed an example of why works should enter the public domain, you have it right here. The art style in Aviary Attorney is inspired by J.J. Granville's work, and when I say inspired, I mean heavily inspired. And the music itself is done by an actual composer of the era, whose name, even after googling, I cannot pronounce properly, so I'm just gonna save myself the embarrassment and just write it on the screen now. Besides simply looking and sounding great, all of this adds a certain note of authenticity to the whole experience, and it makes the world feel alive, with you a part of it. Aviary Attorney would still be a good game without its current presentation, but with it included, it is far greater than the simple sum of its parts. Which leads me to the final section of gameplay, the court battles. These court battles are by far and wide the most interesting parts of the game, combining all of Aviary Attorney's strengths in one single package. Tough puzzles, great dialogue, some rather extravagant characters, and heavy choices with real consequences. The gameplay in this section is focused around presenting evidence and cross-examining witnesses both you and the prosecution can bring to stage. After they deliver their testimony, you need to point out what connections you can make and present evidence supporting your claims, which, if done successfully, will earn you favor with the jury. However, if you spend too much time bumbling around or present your evidence poorly, you can end up being penalized by the judge, and the jury will look at you and your client as fools. This is where the majority of your brain power will be required, since you will need to use all those little clues you found out before in order to find holes in the prosecution's case, which works great as a system, but does suffer from one problem. You cannot back out of cross-examining a witness until you either mess up horribly or choose the correct option, which moves the trial forward. It is a bit sad that in a game that otherwise has excellent puzzles, there aren't any real red herring witnesses where you simply have no reason to poke any of their statements, and where doing so would just open you for ridicule. But other than that, the court cases are exciting and filled with various twists and turns a wise detective would know are coming. I especially love the idea that you can fail or even succeed for the wrong man, and even though quote-unquote justice was served that day, you would end up feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. I would really love to talk about this in detail, but I think I'll just let you experience these things on your own and not spoil anything. So what is my opinion of Aviary Attorney? As I said, I expected I would like Aviary Attorney, but I honestly didn't think I would like it this much. Besides a couple of niggling little flaws and its runtime being somewhat short at around 6 or so hours, I don't have much to complain. It is a very condensed experience that says and does exactly what it meant to. So if you like a game with good characters and stories, or just enjoy a well-made puzzle, then I can fully recommend Aviary Attorney to you, especially given that the price is rather low for what I feel is an exceptionally well done game. Thank you guys for listening, and if you enjoyed this, please do leave a like, it ends up helping me a lot, and if you would like to see more, you can either subscribe here, or you can check out the website down below. That one tends to be updated more frequently. With all of that said, I'll see you guys soon with my review for Underrail. See ya!